When I left Los Angeles after 15 years of grime, and the constant background hum of a city that never truly sleeps, I honestly believed I was walking into a quieter chapter of my life. I wanted calm. I wanted space. I wanted a place where my 10-year-old son could play outside without sirens echoing off every wall. So when I found a townhome in what looked like a clean, peaceful, neighborhood-wide streets, manicured lawns, and the type of silence that feels like a luxury, I thought I'd finally done it. I'd finally found the pause button I'd been searching for. The kitchen was the first thing that sold me. It was massive compared to the closet-sized kitchens I'd survived in before. I could stretch my arms out and not hit a wall. I could cook again. Really cook. Not just assemble meals. And right outside the front door was a modest little patio of blank canvas, just waiting for something alive. Something mine. Something that made the place feel like home. I'm a botanist and a lifelong plant collector. My succulents aren't just plants. They're memories. Some of those aloes and agaves had traveled with me longer than certain friends had. Some were older than my son, their roots twisting through soil I'd mix myself, held in hand-thrown Italian clay pots I'd collected over decades. They were rare, temperamental, vibrant, small bursts of color shaped by patience. And the HOA rules seemed simple enough. Plants allowed, as long as they were alive, as long as they didn't block anything. Perfect. I arranged them carefully, making the patio look like a tiny botanical exhibit. Neighbors slowed down to admire them. One woman asked where I got the blue-glazed pot with the sunburst aloe. Another neighbor said the splash of color made the row of units feel less sterile. For the first time in months, I felt like I'd added something good to the world. Then came the first warning. A plain envelope. A $50 fine. Reason? Trash bin. Violation. And what was the violation? My 10-year-old son, who weighs barely 70 pounds, couldn't lift a heavy trash bag high enough to drop it into the HOA's oversized bin. That wasn't negligence. That was physics. But the letter said they had video evidence, which is when I realized something I hadn't noticed before. We were under constant surveillance. Cameras on corners. Cameras over mailboxes. Cameras pointed at the walkways. They caught everything: my son kicking a soccer ball, me carrying groceries, even which direction I rolled the trash bin, and that started the slow, maddening unraveling of the so-called piece I thought I had purchased. A few months later, another email appeared. This time, the violation was almost laughable. You have too many plants? That was it. No specifics. Just too many. I wrote back with a breakdown of the species, their water usage, and how succulents consume less water than the fruit trees and vegetable planters several residents had. I attached photos, measurements, a full explanation. 2 days later, my world cracked. I came home from a grocery run and felt something was wrong before I even reached the steps. The patio didn't look right. It didn't feel right. The air felt empty, like the breath had been sucked out of the space. My collection, my 20-year-old plants, my rarer agaves, my bright patterned aloes had been butchered, hacked apart. Leaves cut off like they were weeds, roots exposed, some pots smashed, some plants decapitated entirely, soil scattered across the concrete like someone had stomped through a forest fire zone. A gardener the HOA had hired without my knowledge, without my permission, had destroyed everything. I remember just standing there with grocery bags hanging from my hands, feeling this cold, heavy silence wash over me. Those plants had survived droughts, repottings, relocations. They had survived the smog of Los Angeles. They had survived my clueless early 20s when I barely remembered to water myself, much less them. But they couldn't survive the HOA when I emailed asking what the hell had happened. Their reply was a masterclass in deflection. The gardener had misunderstood directions. Then they claimed the patio was community property, which it wasn't. There was no easement, no sidewalk, no path, just the space specifically designated to my unit. I sent them photos, documentation, and a firm message that if they ever touched my property again, I would take them to court. I also sent a full estimate of the damages, including the cost of the rare plants they had just murdered. After that, their inbox suddenly went quiet. For a few months, things were tense, but still, I watered what few pieces of the survivors I could salvage. I repotted shattered roots. Some plants didn't make it. Some never stood a chance. And every time I walked out the door, I remembered how quickly something you love can be destroyed by someone who doesn't care. Then came the wildfire season. Ash fell from the sky like gray snow, gathering on every surface. People wore masks outside to avoid breathing it in. The city had issued bans on leaf blowers because stirring the ash into the air was dangerous, especially for kids, elderly people, and anyone with lungs, basically. One morning, I heard a familiar, droning sound outside my window. I'll leave, blower. The same gardener. The same man who had cut down 20 years of my life's work. He was blasting ash into the air like it was confetti at a parade. My son started coughing. A cloud of toxic dust rose around our door. I didn't even think I ran outside. I told him to stop, that he was violating a city ban, that it was dangerous. He shut it off instantly inside, saying he didn't want to do it either, but the HOA insisted. Even he thought it was stupid, and that was it. That was the moment I knew I couldn't stay. Not one more warning. Not one more violation. Not one more stranger telling me how to exist, how to breathe, how to decorate the space I paid for. I packed. I moved. I found a duplex with a landlord who actually appreciated my collection and didn't treat plants like crimes. The water there didn't have so much chlorine. It burned the leaves. The air felt easier. My son felt freer. And I finally understood something I wish I'd learned years back. HOAs don't exist to build community. They exist to control it, to monitor it, to trim it, tame it, and shape it into something lifeless and uniform. They call it standards, but I call it control, disguised as order, and I will never live under an HOA again.